Hi, Joe Stumpf here, and I want to thank you for investing in the book Willing Warrior. The fact that you purchased this book says so much about you. It tells me that you're willing to expand, to grow, to change, to adapt, to do what's ever necessary to help you get from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. And I'm very grateful for that. You're about to watch a 45-minute presentation that I did for a group of very successful entrepreneurs here in Southern California. And you'll learn what it means to be willing, the real secret sauce to success. You'll learn what it means to adapt this mindset, never quit. Also, you'll discover what it means to have a mentor in your life, a person that is going to guide you from where you are right now to where you want to be. And that's really exciting. So I know you'll enjoy that presentation. I'd also like to extend a very special gift to you and invite you to participate in our Willing Warrior Action teleclasses. For the past year or so, I've been leading classes and helping people take these principles and apply them in their business and in their life on a day-to-day basis. And I'd like to offer that gift to you with one condition, and it's a simple one. All I ask you to do is write a review about the book and then just post it wherever you purchase the book. It could be over at Amazon, it could be over at Lulu Publishers, it could be on Kindle, or wherever you purchase the book. I'm sure they have a place where you could write a review about the book. So I'd appreciate if you do that, and then send me a quick email over to joe@willingwarrior@gmail.com. And then I'll send you a link that will give you the invitation to participate in these monthly tele-coaching clinics on how to apply these principles so you can have a more successful business and a more enjoyable life. So enjoy the presentation. I look forward to getting your email. Thank you.
So speaking of champions, I want to introduce to you my first very special guest, and Mr. Joe Stumpf. Some of you saw him speak if you were here at the event last year. And he is a close friend of mine, someone who I just adore. And he is an incredible entrepreneur. And Joe has been in and around the real estate coaching and training business since 1977. He started his first training and coaching company in 1981. Which has grown to one of the largest real estate coaching companies in North America, and he has worked with over 5,000 real estate agents. I'm sure if you're in the real estate industry, you know of Joe. And he teaches principles, he provides tools and systems to be highly profitable, and at the same time work with teaching people to serve from the heart, to be a super servant. Now, he's got such an incredible story. You guys are going to be inspired beyond belief by Joe. I know I am. And last year at this time, he did something amazing. He put himself to the ultimate test of physical endurance, and he pushed himself to the max, stamina, mental toughness, and he became the oldest guy, which look at him, he looks like, the youngest guy, to survive the civilian version of the Navy SEAL Hell Week. Oh my God. He's also written an amazing book called The Willing Warrior, and it's all about the lessons learned about teamwork, love, authenticity, and determination, and to achieve anything that's possible. And he's going to share with you for about 30 minutes 3 of these 21 lessons that he's learned that I know will be life-changing for all of you. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming Mr. Joe Stumpf.
Would you give it up for Allison? Give her a nice thank you. Thank you, Allison. Yeah, thank you. Morning. So willingness. There's the serenity prayer. How many of you know the serenity prayer? God, grant me the to accept that I cannot change, courage, wisdom to know. So I have a new prayer. It's the willingness prayer. And it goes like this. God, grant me the willingness to accept the people. I cannot change. The willingness to know the ones that I can, and the willingness to know it's me. So what this talk is about is willingness. And I know that we all have different levels of willingness in our life. And we're tested sometimes. We're tested in our willingness. So I'm curious, where are you right now on a scale of 1 low, 100 high, on your willingness to do whatever it takes to make a difference in the world? Your willingness. So why don't you turn to the person next to you and just tell them where you're at right now in regards to your willingness. 1 low, 100 high. Okay, good. There you go. So my intention in the short time that we have together, we have 30 minutes together, and my intention is to expand your willingness, just to expand it. And to expand it in the direction that you'll get connected to a deeper willingness to make the difference in the world that you want to make. And there is a difference that we all want to make. Say yes? Yeah. And the only thing that stops us from getting from where we are to where we want to be is willingness. And so I love the thought that I am willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I won't do whatever it takes, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But isn't it interesting that as soon as you say, I'm not willing to do that, that's the thing you have to do. And often you're not called to do things, you're just called to be willing to do things. And so what I'm asking for you today is to just look into my experience. And I have a short experience that I'd like to share with you about what warrior willingness is. There's a level of commitment that you have to make that is beyond your human capacity when you want to transcend who you're currently being. See, we all have a story. Every one of us come into this room with a story. And our willingness to transcend that story, to get rid of that story and get a new story, trade that story in for a bigger and better story. So how many of you have a story? You have a story. And how many of you realize you are not your story? Yeah, you're bigger than your story. And the intention for today's conversation is just to look inside and keep asking yourself, how can I get a bigger story? How willing am I to trade in that old story? So I'm going to tell you my story in 30 minutes or less about how I had to take on some extraordinary things. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Anybody from that part of the woods there? So I have 9 brothers and sisters, more than just a hobby for my dad. We used to refer to his bedroom as the workbench. Dad. And we'd hear him. He's back at work again. And I would wake up in the morning when I was 12, 13-year-old, very, very similar to Allison, born as an entrepreneur. My mother would wake up with me, and I had, at that time, 7 or 8 brothers and sisters, and I would do a paper route, and she'd sit in the hallway with me, and we would wrap the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times, and she'd put it in wax paper and get me on my way. And when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 doing that, it was the greatest memory of my life, because I had this one-on-one time with my mom. That sacred moment with her. Because when I would return back home at 7:30, she was not the same mom. Because all the kids were awake, everybody had to get fed and off to school, and my mom also had an affair with Jack Daniels. Yeah. So she'd walk around the house with a thermos with half Jack Daniels and half coffee. Now, I don't care who you are, that's going to alter your consciousness. And so my mother had this challenge. And it came from her grandfather, her father, and their grandfather, and she could not transcend that story. She couldn't get past that story. And I don't know if she had the willingness or not. Obviously, her behavior indicated a lack of willingness to get a new story. And this is not about her. This is about our ability to look at our behavior and how it impacts the people around us. So I'd come home from school about 4 o'clock, and there was either 2 things. She was either passed out or she was just crazy. So I learned how to stay at school late. Because the later I stayed, the more likely she'd be passed out. And I would oh, is she awake? Oh, good. And I could sneak in. And that was my strategy. So my warrior training started early. And some of you started some of your training very early. Some of you learned how to develop your willingness out of survival. Just how to figure out how to get from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. But we have to transcend that. We have to move past that story. So I have been on this journey, this inner journey of healing for a long time. And it was the gift my parents gave to me. The gift they gave me was, okay, we're going to give you this upbringing so you have to spend the rest of your life overcoming it. And I love that thought. What else was I going to do with my life? I love, my friend Milton used to say, we spend the second 40 years of our life getting over the first 4. And so I started my journey, and many, many things along the way have occurred, and many extraordinary mentors and coaches have come along the way and have guided me and coached me. But I had this experience where I was able to learn some lessons by becoming the oldest guy ever to go through the civilian version of the Navy SEAL Hell Week. Now, that was a Crucible experience, and I believe that it's inside Crucible experiences is where we have a chance to trade in our old story. It's like when we're brought to the brink, to the absolute brink, that we have to taste what all failure would look like. That's when we have a chance to actually reinvent ourselves. And Werner Erhard used to say, there is no such thing as a breakthrough until you have complete breakdown. And I love that thought. So I volunteered to have a breakdown. I signed up for a breakdown. I actually paid $5,000 to have him break me down. It had come to this. So I'll tell you the story of how this all unfolded for me and how I got involved. And I'm going to share with you 3 or 4 lessons from it. And the lessons are not necessarily about the SEAL experience. They're the lessons of life that you can bring into any part of your business, any part of your relationships, anything that you're trying to move through. And that's what my intention is, to help transcend my experience and give that to you as a life lesson. So it looks like this for me. This is one of my favorite quotes, and this is an experience that we have on the sand. There's a part of the SEAL experience that they spend a lot of time on the beach. That's why they call them SEALs. And you spend a lot of time in the sand, and there was experiences where you'd get in the sand, and we'd literally be on our bellies for about a mile or 2. And you wouldn't even know, but it would be hours, and you would be racing in the sand. And there were many times that lots of thoughts would come up for me about, why am I doing this? But one of my favorite quotes is this, is the basic difference between the ordinary man and a warrior, or ordinary woman and a warrioress, is that the warrior or the warrioress takes everything as a challenge, while the ordinary man takes everything as a blessing or as a curse. I love that thought. When something in your business comes that is good, look at it as a challenge, not as a blessing. How many of you have noticed that as soon as something good happens, it sets up a whole new issue for you to deal with? All of a sudden, we have more business. Uh-oh, I need to learn how to hire people. I'm making more money. Uh-oh, I need to do something that I've never done before. I have to manage it. So everything that comes to us is a new challenge. And that's an extraordinary way to live. So I looked at just my childhood as, and I do today more than ever before, as not a blessing or as a curse. It was the challenge that I was given. And so how many of you have some challenge in your life right now that you're up to receiving? You're like, I'm ready to take it on right now. Yeah. And so this experience right here that Alice has put you through could be your Hell Week. It could be your Crucible experience. It could be the place where you take 3 days to get rid of your old story and introduce yourself to an entirely new way of being, possibly, if you choose to take that on. So when I went into this experience, what I was always looking for were people who would agree with me. Because how many of you have noticed that we are the sum total of the people that we pretty much hang around with? My friend John Ashraf says you can take the 10 people who you communicate with most frequently, add up their income, divide it by 10, and it's probably yours. Probably, close. Maybe if you throw $1 billion in there, that will take them out. Take the high and the low out, and you probably are going to be okay. So all it takes to make the impossible possible is 2 people agreeing. If you immediately create a structure to support the inspiration, to make the manifestation, the intention is inevitable. See, there's a point in all of our lives that there's a moment, all of a sudden we go, you know what, that's the experience for me. Now, I had this experience one afternoon. I went over to the U.S. CrossFit SEAL Fit Center over in Encinitas on 2nd Street. And that's where they run the Kokoro camp out of. And I was walking over there with a friend of mine, And there were these 15, 16 men out on the grinder, that's the big concrete out there, and they had these fatigues on, the white shirt and the camis on, and I stopped and I was watching this. And I'd never seen anything like this. Now, I had trained over there for about 6 or 7 months, but I'd never seen this before. And Mark Devine, the commander, who is a commander in the Navy SEALs, is standing there, and he recognized me and says, "Hey, Joe, how are you?" And I said, "Well, what's going on here, Mark?" And he said, "This is the Kokoro camp. This is the 50-hour, nonstop, no sleep, no eat, full-out test. And if these boys can make it through here, they can get down to BUDS, basic underwater demolition, and they got about a 95% chance that they're going to make it through that experience." And he says, "Oh, there's a couple of guys in there that are not going to be SEALs. They're just testing to see if they've got the secret sauce." And when he said secret sauce, something went up in my, what do you mean? Who are they? And I started looking at him. He goes, "Well, that guy, he's not it, and that guy's not it." And I turned to Mark and I asked him a question that I don't even know if I asked. It came from spirit. I said, "Mark, who's the oldest guy ever to do this?" And he smiled because he knew what I was asking. And he said, and he knew how old I was. He goes, "I think the guy was 53. What a setup. And I said, "Do you think I could do it, Mark?" And he looks at me and goes, "Only you know." I hated that answer. How many of you want people to tell you that you can do it? And he says, "Only you can know, but if we can get together on Monday," this is Friday, "I'll be free around 9 o'clock and we can talk a little bit about it." He says, "I got to go." And there's nothing like somebody just flying in, landing an idea on you and then flying away. And as he's walking away, I don't know who said it, but a part of me said, "See you Monday." And it changed my life. Because as soon as I felt inspired in the moment, with 2 people agreeing that there's something that we need to look at, I put some structure in place to make it inevitable. And if I would have walked away, I promise you, if I would have walked away without saying, "See you Monday," I would have never done it. Because the part of me that would have overtaken me with fear and anxiety and all the stuff, because I sat there and watched the next 6 hours of this experience, and when it was done, I was going, "What am I doing on Monday?" Why did I say that? So I showed up on Monday, and I went through the experience of making the commitment to do it, although I didn't pay him. You know, how many of you know that when you pay him, that's throwing your hat over the fence? You know, I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm in," and then I avoided him for the next 60 days. How many of you know that? Caller ID, you know, look at the number. I don't think I'll pick that up, yeah. It's when you make a commitment, but you have to put your money where your mouth is. And I just, it's interesting that, you know, like whatever the amount of money is, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, all it is an indication of how much you believe in yourself. You know, that's all it is. Money is just a manifestation of how much you actually are going to put on you. Some of you put money into 401ks. You're betting on other companies. You know, but you're willing to bet on your own company, your own self. You know, it's like, it's really interesting how the dynamics of money work. So I avoided him because I didn't have a strong enough reason why. You know, I didn't know why I wanted to do it. And when you don't have a strong why, what you start to do is ask how. And you get stuck in asking how. You want to really get paralyzed, keep asking, "How do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it?" It's none of your business. All you have to do is have a strong enough reason why to do it. I like to say it this way, that my job is to deepen and strengthen my why, and God's job is to show me how. And he'll point me, or she'll point me in the direction of all the people and all the strategies that I needed to know. Because my mentor knew what to do. My mentor knew exactly what to do. He knew that in order for me to get from where I was to where I wanted to be, he knew how to do it. He just needed me to have a strong enough reason why. And I love this thought that when we have a strong enough reason why, the how will always be revealed. Those that achieve big goals have more reasons why they must do something than they must not do something. It's really crucial that you understand that in order for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, you have to have a strong, strong why. Now, I struggled with this quite a bit, and I went into the SEAL training for a year in advance before I went through the camp. It took me 1 year of preparation, and I showed up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and trained with a group of guys that were all Navy SEALs for 3 hours, and it was painful. At the end of a month, I was going, "Why did I do this? Why did I do this? Why am I doing this? What am I trying to prove?" How many of you have ever questioned or doubted your decisions? How many of you have ever had that? Because what's waning is not the how, it's the why. And so I got a call from a friend of mine, Jamie Smart, and Jamie Smart says, come to London, Joe, and I'm doing a conference. And Jamie's a brilliant linguist, and I do a little bit of NLP training. And he said, yeah, come on out here. And so I was having this conference there, and he said magic words. He said, Joe, the key to business is visibility, visibility. And I wrote down the word visibility, and all of a sudden I got this new why. I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a movie. And so I started affirming, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to get the film production, the company, everything. We're going to make a great movie about me going through the Kokoro camp. Now, that got me through about another month of training. How many of you just have to find a why just to get you through the rest of the day? And eventually what happened was that why disappeared. I had a couple conversations. One day I was in doubt. I called up a friend. His name is Jesse. I said, Jesse, I'm doing this thing called Kokoro, and I'm going to get a camera, and they're going to film me. We're going to make a movie. And he goes, I like the idea, but kill the idea on the movie. I said, why is that? He goes, oh, this is not about other people. This is about what you're going to get, not what other people are going to get from your experience. And I hated the fact that I called him. Because I hung up the phone and I go, what did I call him for? Then I called Jim McQuaig. And I said, Jim McQuaig, he's a good friend of mine. He's a former Navy officer. I said, Jim, I'm doing this thing with Kokoro. I'm going to film it. And I just want to hear what your thoughts are. And he goes, Joe, I love the idea, but kill the camera. 2 for 2. And I said, why is that? And he goes, because you're going to be in the middle of the ocean late at night. There's going to be lights and cameras on you. And you're going to look at those lights and cameras and you go, who is watching this? That I'm going to go through this pain. And then you'll quit. And it will be okay. He says, go for it, but kill the camera. And I hung up the phone. I go, oh my, what is God trying to tell me right now? Then I called Michelle. Michelle, where are you at? Michelle Zwicker. Michelle Zwicker is my producer at some of my events, a wonderful business coach, an extraordinary human being. And I'm grateful for you eternally, Michelle, just eternally. And I called Michelle up. I said, Michelle, I need some help. I need to get some insight. So we sat down on my porch at my house, and I said, help me out. And she goes, well, Joe, what's important about Kokoro to you? And she asked me that question 7 times. And after the 7th time, what came out is that I had to learn how to trust myself. And I wanted to be more trustworthy. I wanted to keep my word to myself, not to you. I wasn't going to do Kokoro because I said I was going to do it. I was going to do Kokoro because it would prove to me that I loved myself enough to follow through. And all the story behind all that. And so I tapped into a new why, and all of a sudden I had fuel for another 30 days. Because that's all you're looking for sometimes. Just a little bit of juice, please. So I got that juice and I started to go to work. But once you let go of resistance, what appears is all of your assistance. It's really powerful that as soon as you let go of all the struggle, all the people start to appear to help you to get there. And one of them appeared in the form of my mentor. His name is Mark Devine. And I love this thought that your mentor operates from a level of consciousness that resonates higher than yours, yet the frequency that you can tune into at the same time. You know, just slightly higher, but not aloof, but just a little bit more where you're going, you know what, I want to be like you. And when I saw Mark and the way that he operated, I looked at his character and I said, I can see what's missing in me that I would like to develop in myself. And usually the qualities that we love in others are the ones that are underdeveloped in ourselves. And if you can be truthful with that and really honest, instead of judging yourself for not being good enough, looking at it and saying, you know, your quality of the way that you present yourself is the one I would like to presence myself. And I can see it missing in myself because I can see it in you. Does that make sense, Joe? And that's what a mentor does. And what I love about Allison is just her willingness to do whatever it takes. It is so amazing. She keeps moving forward, just keep moving forward. She doesn't care what the universe says, she just keeps moving forward. Would you agree with that? Just amazing. That's a mentor you want. You want somebody who's going to show you that there is no benefit to not taking action. There's no benefit to it. You only learn when you take the next step. And my mentor kept on sharing with me the same thing over and over again. Joe, keep moving, keep moving. And he taught me some extraordinary lessons. But I always felt like I was Luke Skywalker with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Could you imagine how Luke Skywalker felt when he met Obi-Wan Kenobi? Could you imagine that? And if you know the story, all it was as soon as he gave up his struggle, Obi-Wan Kenobi appears and gives him the answers, gives him the assistance. So as soon as you let go of how, I promise you, the answers will appear. How you're going to get from here to there only needs your why. And what a great coach does is always stokes the why, gets the why more empowered. And you'll find that over the next couple of days, that's what Allison's expertise is that she gets you really inspired to why you should do this, why you deserve to do it now. So there's several lessons. I'll just give you, these are the key lessons that I learned from my mentor and what I learned in my experience. And the first lesson is, no matter what, don't quit. No matter what, don't quit. Would you all say that? You say it 3 times real fast. Again? Okay, now look at the person next to you. The person with the longest hair looks into the person's eyes next to him and says it 3 times. Tell them. Because right there, that's the most significant thing if you go into a Crucible experience and you want to get a new story is, don't go back to the old story. Because as soon as you quit, you go right backwards. You go right back to the old story. And I saw it happen over and over again. We started with a large group of guys that went into this experience, and the only way you could get out of it was you had to quit. They would not cancel you. They couldn't say, you're out. You had to take your gear off, put it down, and ring the bell and say, I quit. And I saw a lot of guys quit. 17-year-old guys quit. And it was amazing. I'm watching this. I'm going, what is it? And what it was is, when they went into the experience, a part of their psyche said, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I could always come back and do it later. I can quit. They did not close all the windows on possibilities of quitting. No matter what, don't quit. No matter what, don't quit. No matter what, don't quit. I'd asked Mark, I said, Mark, what is the number one secret to not quitting? He said, have big regretter muscles. Meaning that if you're about to quit, start to think forward what the feeling's going to be in the future, and then look back and feel the regret. Lance Armstrong said it. Suffering is temporary, regret is forever. So I knew that my daughters, Olivia, sitting at the back table. Would you raise your hand, Olivia? There's my beautiful 18-year-old, tremendous human being. I love you so much. She's my inspiration. You know what I said to her? I said, I want you at the finish line. And then when I was under the log or when I was in the water and it was late at night and people are quitting all over the place, all I could imagine is me not being at the finish line and Olivia's waiting for me. And then I would have had to call her up and say, oh, Dad quit. And what I know today is the way that you keep yourself motivated is do things you've never done before, but the way you inspire others is do things that no one's ever done before. Be the first kid in the family to go to college and you give everybody else in the family to go to college. Be the first entrepreneur that makes financial freedom a way of life. And you give everybody generations afterwards permission to do that. Build a successful business like Allison's father did, gave Allison permission to do it. It's amazing that when we do something that is extraordinary, we give people permission to do it, and if we don't, I promise you, you'll regret it the rest of your life. So, how many of you could strengthen your regretter muscle? Yeah. And the way you do that is just practice feeling quitting so you know how devastating it would feel if you actually did. Practice it. Pain is a greater motivator than pleasure. People run faster from a fire than towards a fire engine. Second lesson is master the process of adaptation. Become masterful at adapting. The dinosaurs weren't able to do it. Borders couldn't handle it. Lehman Brothers didn't do it. They couldn't adapt. Adapt. Now, we had this experience where it's called rucking. Rucking, you put a 70-pound backpack on, and you go for a 21-mile walk. And we did 4 or 5 of those over a 30-day period. And the first ruck that I had, Mark called it my virgin ruck. And you put your boots on. You get these boots, your combat boots on, and you just take a walk. And we're walking down the beach. Maybe you can imagine this. We're walking down the beach in Encinitas all the way to Oceanside, from Encinitas to Oceanside and back. That's 21 miles. And we're walking in the sand. And this is in August. And everybody from Ohio, Illinois, and Phoenix is on the beach, you know? And here we are, there's 9 of us trudging down the beach, and you could hear people, look, the seals are coming. And that just inspired me so much. I'm like, yeah, seal. Until we passed a group of women all sitting underneath a little tent. And then as I was the last guy in line, I heard one of them say, oh, look, the father's with them. and I was like, Commander, you know. It was quite funny. But we got to this place where my foot, there was something going on with my foot. I couldn't figure it out. Like my foot was like really messed up. There was something going on. And I took my boot off, and my commander at that moment said, what are you doing? I got the boot off. He goes, did you take your boot off? I said, yes. He goes, ooh, that's like taking a cast off. What you just did is you let it all open up again. And as I opened up, I looked on the side of my foot. I had a blister the size of Texas. And underneath it, there was a splinter in my foot. My foot had actually, the bone in my foot had broken open. Now, he said, get the boot on as fast as possible, because that's like get your cast on as fast as possible. And so I slipped my foot back, and not really slipped. I had 4 guys slip it back on for me. And I get back in there, and it hurt so bad to put any pressure on it. He says, the only way that you can relieve the pressure is you got to keep moving until it numbs out, so there is no pain or no feeling in the leg. And then he turns to me, he goes, but it's okay. You now have Rutgers feet. And I said, I have Rutgers feet? And he reframed it. He goes, yeah, you need Rutgers feet in order to be a SEAL. He goes, you're just adapting. Your feet are adapting to the heavy load. Moms, you know this when you're pregnant. You know, you're just adapting. Your body is preparing itself for the mission ahead. The body knows exactly what it needs to do. Now, it's painful to adapt. Say yes? Yeah. And the person who focuses on the pain misses out on the opportunity to allow their body to adapt. I love that thought. I love the thought that we're all adapting. Another lesson that I got was the question of who would really know. See, who really knows when you leave this room what you do with your time? Who really knows if you wake up in the morning and you make the calls, you send out the cards, you work your database, you stay in touch with it? Who really knows if you're asking people for referrals and introductions? Who really knows? Only you know. Say yes? Yeah, only you know. Who would know? You could say you did it, but who really knows? Most of us as entrepreneurs are in our own worlds. We're lone rangers. You know, you can have Tonto, but you're on your own for the most part. Would you agree? Yeah, for the most part. Now, I had an experience where we had an evolution called Murph, named after a famous Navy SEAL guy that died in battle. And what it is that you run a mile, then you do 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 dips, and you do 20 rounds of that. Run another mile. 40-pound weight on your back. That's what we're doing here. And you have to get it done within an hour. If not, there's a severe penalty. So you go into that evolution with that as the mission, clearly defined mission. So I go out on the run, did pretty good on the run, get back. I'm pretty strong. I can do pull-ups, and I can compete pretty well with all that stuff. And then I go out on the back end of the run, and I'm leaving the facility at about 45 minutes. So I've got 15 minutes to get a mile in. I can get a 15-minute mile in. And I'm running out. All of a sudden, my legs start to cramp up in this area from dehydration. I wasn't getting enough electrolytes, and so my legs started cramping up. Anybody ever have that type of cramp that you can't, like all the leg muscles just freeze? Anybody ever have anything like that? And I'm like stumbling along, and I'm like the only one out there. It's midnight. There's no one out here, and I'm looking around, and I'm going, oh no, I got to get in within an hour. And I'm moving along. I'm going, oh, I can hardly move. And I'm going, who would know if I turned around? Who would know? And I'm like starting to look backwards. I'm going, there's nobody back there, nobody up there. Who would know? Who would know? And I kept on moving forward, but I kept on saying, who would know? Who would know? And I kept on looking, and then I could see a guy way up in front, and I'm thinking, is that somebody who maybe he would know? Can't let him know. So that guy pulled me forward a little bit. And then I got up to him, and it was just some drunk. I'm going, gee, I did this for you? Oh, yeah. And I'm now about a quarter of a mile to the turnaround point, and I'm literally ready to turn around because I am absolutely committed to getting under 60 minutes. My ego says nobody's going to beat me. I got to get this done. And there was a part of me that said, who would know? And that voice started booming down. Who would know? Who would know? And I kept moving forward, and I got to the point, halfway point, and you touch it, and then you turn back, and it was like, who would know? Who is who? It's not me, because me wants to turn around. Me wants to cut corners. Me wants to plagiarize. Me wants to make easy money. How many of you know who you are? And there's a part of me that wants to cut corners. I just want it to rain money. How many of you just want to wake up in the morning, go down to the car, and your client's in the back seat and says, I'm ready? I mean, that's who you really are when it comes right down to it. As opposed to, I want to learn all the lessons that I have to learn on this journey. No, I don't. I just want the outcome. And so as I'm running back, I fall to the ground. My legs are completely paralyzed. And then around the corner comes Don and Brandon, two guys, two of my partners, and they look at me and they go, Joey, what's going on? They pick me up and they start swinging my legs. So like I'm a drapery swinging my legs. And I thought they were paralyzed from the waist down. And Don's a medic. He goes, not paralyzed. You are just so dehydrated right now. There is just no juice in your legs right now. But just keep swinging. We got to release something. We got to release some adrenaline there. And they sat there and they hung and just swung me for about 3 minutes. These guys gave up their time to make me get through. And they dropped me down. And as soon as they dropped me down, I went, oh, that released. Boom, ran in as fast as I can. I turned the corner 59-56. The experience, yeah. Now, I'm telling you, that was Don and Brandon who did that for me. And the experience I got was, if I would have turned around, I would have never known the value of my two teammates. I would have never had that experience. And that's what who wanted me to experience. Now, who for me is God? God would know. See, at the end, when it's all said and done, I'm going to be sitting there, and it's only going to be, we're all alone at the end. Hey, God, how'd I do? Well, remember that race? There's a little penalty for that. And that's who would know. And at that moment, something happened for me that was what has already happened for Mark. A new level of character developed because I trusted myself. It happened in a flash. Allison said it was the aha. And I no longer needed to have somebody watch me do my repetitions. I was not going to cheat, because who would know? I had that experience. I never had to look for Mark. I just say, hey, Mark, did you see me? I made it. It didn't matter. Who would know? And when you get to that place of who would know, and you all have that who would know experience, you have it every day, you start to get a new story. You start to reinvent yourself. And this next to the last story, never forget what you saw in the light when you're in the dark. I went through a divorce. I'm sure more than half of you have experienced that, or know half of the world has experienced that. But I've done it twice just to make sure it works. Why is divorce so expensive? It's worth it. All kidding aside. It was the darkest time of my life. After my second divorce, it was the darkest moment of my life because I thought I had figured it out. And I remember sitting down with Olivia and Tracy, my older daughter, and their mother, Kathy, and I said, you guys, I messed up again. I made a big mistake. You know, I can't believe this has happened to me. And my girls were looking at me like, Dad, would you get your act together, please? Now, this was 10 years ago, but it was a lasting impression that they loved me no matter what, but they really wanted me to be a better model for what was possible. And then I spent the last 10 years meeting incredible people and having incredible experiences and just working on me instead of having somebody try to fix me. And it's been a wonderful experience. And you know, it's a constant journey. I'm leaving here today. I'm signed up. I'm starting going back to school. I'm going to go get my master's degree in spiritual psychology. I'm starting a school at USM, University of Santa Monica. Tonight's my first class. And it's like this new chapter in who am I going to be? Like where am I going to take this journey to? But in regards to never forget what you saw in the light when you're in the dark, my coach, Dan Miller, said to me the night before the Hell Week started, he says, Joey, no matter what, do not quit at night. Do not quit at night. Because there's something very powerful that the sun does the first thing in the morning. It gives you a totally different perspective. So at night, just say to yourself, I can stay here until it's light, and then I can quit it in the light, but never in the dark. And one night, we're out on the beach, and I'll tell you, that water is cold at night. And we're sitting in the water, and darn near hypothermia. 53 degrees is where hypothermia hits in, and where it's probably about 59, 60, and we're in there for several hours. And you're just tied to each other, and you're starting to take your clothes off. You know, you're sitting, you're just raw. It's you and the moon, and it's like, and you're hanging on to your buddy. You're just hanging on to your buddy. And one of my buddies that I had started with let go of my arm. I said, get back here. He goes, no, Joey, I'm done. I go, no, stay. He goes, no, I'm done. I go, please stay. The reason I was begging him to stay, he was twice my size, and when we got out of the water, he would hug me, and I'd get warm right away. He was my blanket. He was my man hug. And I just loved him for that. I would go, Hunter, hug me, please, now. And he'd hug me, and my core would get instantly warm. And he quit. He went and rang the bell. And I know for a fact that the reason he left was he thought he was there for him. He forgot he was there for me. And so when he quit, he rang the bell. And it was a long night. It was a very, very long night. 4 guys quit that night. And there's nothing more painful than watching a buddy that you've been with for a long time quit. There's nothing more painful because you just want to grab them and say, you will regret it the rest of your life. And they're just dropping off. And we're running down the beach, and the sun starts to come up in the morning. And we got together as a group. There we are as a group. And I just looked out, and we all went, hoo-yah. And all of a sudden, it was like, I can make it another day. And I would be really aware of the decisions you make at night. Anything after 7 o'clock, question it. Do not say I do after 7 o'clock. Make that earlier in the day. Or how many of you just, when you sleep on it, you just sometimes just feel better? Yeah. Hey, sometimes. And then I'll just wrap it up by saying this, is that trust yourself and you become trustworthy. When you trust yourself, you become trustworthy. Now, this is only on my experience, and see if it fits for you. We had this experience where for the year in advance of the training, I would train with these young men that were all Navy SEALs, all phenomenal young men. Just, I love them to death. And they all wore black shirts. I couldn't wear a black shirt because I had not gone through the experience. So I got a white shirt. Now, I used to think to myself, don't these guys know who I am? Or who I think I am? They could give a hoot who I was. They could care less. I have the biggest coaching company in North America. They could care less, about any success that I've had. It didn't mean anything. All they wanted to know was, can we trust you? With our backs turned, can we trust you no matter what? Because that's what SEALs do, is you go through buds in order to figure out who has the capacity to endure anything, so in a firefight, they don't quit on their pals. We have to test it before we actually get into the firefight. And so these guys knew, hey, who are you? You have a clue what you have to do. So you show up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and do this 2.5-hour thing. You're doing it more for the fame and the glory than to, and they knew, they could see right through me. And I would sit in the circle with them, and when we went around after our trainings, we'd talk, they'd skip right over me and go, shut up, Stumpf, next. And I was an outsider looking in, and I had to endure that. That's what's part of the test. Do you have what it takes to be outside looking in until you earn the right in? See, I've always thought I could buy my way in. Can I just buy that shirt? You sure? I'll give you all the money you want. Just give me the shirt, please. Then I could act like I did it. I know how to do that. How many of you know how to do that? And so I stuck with it. And at the end of the experience, we all finish up. And those are my 3 guys my teammates, Jay, 20, Micah, 21, 2 Navy SEALs. There's Mark at the left and Coach Dan. The guys, I just love these guys. They just brought me through. And at the end, they throw me a black T-shirt. I slip the T-shirt on. They all walk over and put their hand on me, and they go, hoo-yah! And what that means is, I trust you. Now, the amazing thing was, I didn't care, because I trusted me. See, up to that point, all I wanted them to do was like and trust me, because I didn't like and trust myself enough. And so I knew that no matter what, I'm trustworthy. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. It doesn't matter if you trust me or not, because I trust myself. I'll take care of you no matter what. And I would suggest for most of you that when you're invited into a Crucible experience, the question is, do you trust yourself enough to follow through? Not, is it good enough? Is it going to be worth my money? That stuff. That's all your ego's not saying you don't trust you. And so my encouragement to you over these next 3 days is to look at this as a Crucible experience, that you're learning how to not quit, learning how to adapt, learning how to make clear, concise choices at the right, appropriate time, and most importantly, learning how to trust yourself. And when you do that, hoo-yah. Would y'all say hoo-yah? Hoo-yah. Okay, give the person next to you a high five and say hoo-yah. Hoo-yah. Okay. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful next couple of days. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you. Good.